Yo, it's Guido coming at you with the Tactics Talk, guys. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. And today we are going to tackle topography mode. Topography mode. Not a bad idea, but I don't know if the execution is really where the community needs it to be quite honest. When I first went through one of these, it was on stream. I played one. Man, I was ready to come off the top rope on this thing, but as usual, you sit on it for a minute and you think about it, and let's be a little more constructive, a little bit more constructive. Before we get started, I'm going to go through a couple of these things with you. I'm going to talk about it as we go, some of the good, some of the bad, what it does, what it doesn't do, some of those kinds of things. Let's take a quick look at the 1.14 article when 1.14 was released, and go down and see what Wargaming says topography mode is supposed to do. Improve your map knowledge in topography, which is what I thought it would be based on all of the things I read up to the release of this thing. It says, to help newcomers better navigate maps in World of Tanks, introducing a new training mode, topography. Training in this mode takes place in single-player mission format. You'll be able to master the basics of playing on maps of different difficulties. I actually don't know what that means. What maps of different difficulties? No idea what that means. Completing missions and exploring maps, good, will improve your navigation. Now, I like the exploring. I'm not so jazzed about the completing the missions, and that we'll talk about that when we get there. Improve your navigation skills and help increase your survivability. Plus, you'll get rewards, credits, free XP, and consumables. All right, cool. I like the rewards. So basically, what they've done, my friends, is they have taken a map exploration mode and they've tried to turn it into kind of a combination of map knowledge, game knowledge, and then a bit of a mini game involved in it. And it does a little bit of all of that, and it does none of it good. I'm sorry, Wargaming. This was a swing and a miss. But we're going to talk about some things I think can be done to make this a little bit better. And we'll just dive into it. Here we go. First things first, how do you get there? You're going to do the drop down. You're going to come to the new battle mode page that they have, and you're going to come all the way over to the right in topography. You're going to click on that, and you're going to come into topography. You will have a wait to get into these. So far on NA, I haven't had much trouble. I did go over to my EU account, and that one took quite a wait before I was able to get in. We'll see what happens here. I may have to edit, especially if I can't get in immediately. But so far, I've had little trouble on the NA server getting in here. There are 15 maps, basic scenarios, advanced scenarios, and scenarios unavailable. So these are the advanced scenarios. These are the basic scenarios. I'm going to actually show an advanced on proc because I've done 2 of these already, and we'll discuss them as we go. The basic idea, obviously, here was to let people explore the maps a little bit. That's a good idea. But the problem is, there's many problems. One of the big problems with the exploration idea specifically is that there's a timer, number one, and then there's a mission that you kind of have to go through, and there's no real free play exploring capability, and I think that's a problem. One of the things that they're dealing with here, from what I'm reading, is each time you enter one of these, it creates a game for you on the server. That's why there's a bit of a limit on how many of these things can be going at once, obviously to save server space and all that good stuff. So that's the way the game's mech'd server side. This is no different. In the past, in order to look around the maps, you either had to go to a pub match and run around, in which case people are shooting at you, so you may not get to see the things you want to see or do the things you want to do. Number 2 was go into a training room, but you always needed at least one other person to do so. So one of the requests from the community has been, hey, why can't we get some kind of mode where we can explore the map? So we have this thing where they can't really just have a bazillion of these things open, you know, say a bunch of people start them and walk off, and now the server's grinding away. So obviously there's a timer involved with these things. So there's that issue right there working against us a little bit. And the problem, you know, is there's just no free flow in these maps, and that I think is unfortunate. So the answer has been, looks like the compromise in any event, that we'll go into these maps into topography mode, and then there's a mission. So you kind of follow the mission along, and the guy talks to you, and he tries to help you understand the map. Now, The issues I'm finding with that is, first of all, it's very basic. Second of all, it's incorrect in some instances. And I'm not saying incorrect as in potentially saying the wrong thing, but there are some places where it can give the wrong idea. This is a good mode for a new player. There are some rewards, some silver. It's very easy, and it does give you some basic ideas about the map. That's all good stuff. It's all good stuff. My issue with it is there's a lot of bad habits or information or inferred information that people are getting from this thing. So let's just jump into it. Like I said, we'll go to proc and we'll talk about this one map. So you click on the map, you can see that down below here you have 4 different scenarios for each one. You can see what the basic idea of it's going to be, and you're going to be in the tank they give you. So another problem is it's not like you can take your light tank and go, let me explore proc with my light tank and see how close I can sneak up to people. That would have been great, but that is not what you can do. You get a armored tank or a maneuverable tank in this case, and we'll have to look at the rest of them, but this is how the proc one is set up. If you do all 4, you get these goodies over here. 3 kits and 1,000 free experience. For each mission, you get 20,000 silver. You can do the mission again, so there is a little bit of ability to free flow and kind of look around. I did that with the armored tank number 1. If we click on this, what happens here is it takes you up the 5-6 line, has you come across to the 1-2 line, and then back over towards the near the cap anyway. But you don't do anything over on the other side of the map per the scenario. What I was able to do was start it again. You won't get 20,000 credits, but you can do it again. And I went right over the road, and I came up here, and there are enemies up here. We'll see when we get in there. The minimap actually tells you where the frick everybody is. So also not exactly friendly or useful, especially if we're trying to figure out scouting spots and things like that. And to be quite honest, one of the biggest things about a free flow kind of mission like this, or kind of mode, would be learning things about scouts and spotting system, and we'll get to that in just a minute for the spotting system. So the first one we're going to look at is armored tank. I've already done this one, but we'll discuss as we go. So you click battle. There's no equipment. There's no consumables. Another problem. So I can't set up my tank. I can't grab my light, set up my tank with a CVS and some other things and kind of see what's going on. The only way to do that still is over in a training room with somebody else, at least one somebody else. Now, to be fair, that may be probably the best way to do those kinds of things, because then you have 2 people talking and you can figure that out. All right, but we're talking topography mode, and here's what's going on with this thing. So we spawn in. First of all, this is not a standard spawn. It's not where you spawn, and you're not pointed that way. It's a small thing. It is, but it's wrong. That's not how you start on this map, all right? And it just gets worse from there. So the first thing they want you to do is you're going to go ahead and drive to that marker right there. There will be just some discussion from the narrator on this, other than myself, about things to do. So we'll listen to that, but I'll talk about things that could be talked about on these modes right here, or on these maps. Okay, so they called a firing line. You can see up on the right we have a timer, so you've only got so much time. You do need to get to these points and start shooting guys. There's no discussion on this at all about why going 5-6 might be a good idea or why it might be a bad idea. On my videos, for most of you that watch my videos, understand 5-6 is a really controlling spot. One of the reasons I picked Prokhorovka is because it is a very difficult map for new players to understand, because the spotting system in the game and the crossfires and the maneuver position and repositioning and maneuver, the chess match part of this game is hard to understand initially. You can figure out that the tank goes forward, the gun shoots forward, the armor's better on the front, and you can kind of go from there in a basic idea. But this map is so wide open that there are so many crossfire points, and when you come to map control, this is one of the harder ones to really understand the nuances of, and there's zero discussion about that. Now, maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing, because we're not really here with brand new players trying to get into the real meat and the depth of what you need to do on this map. But even just a little blurb about the 5-6 line is an important position, because it has shots onto the hill and across over to the 1-2 line. I mean, just that very basic piece of information would have already made this thing exponentially better. But basically all it tells you is to go forward and get into the circle, which we will do.
You're on the firing line. Destroy the targets.
Destroy the targets. All right. No discussion about, hey, there's a target on the hill. There's one of the shots you could get from the 5-6 line. There's a target right in front of you. Realize that he is hull down, and you're going to have to come up forward to take shots. There are so many things that could be talked about right here while you're doing this. So we'll just come up here and we'll shoot. Now, the old phone got me. All right. So I went close enough. I finally got spotted. You also notice that as soon as I got in this circle, they lit up, which had zero to do with my vision on my tank. So, of course, you're a brand new player going, why did they light up? If you get into a circle, do they light up? What's going on with that? Then we'll miss. As a general rule in this mode, if you let it zoom all the way in, you're going to have a hard time missing. RNG appears to be dialed back quite a bit for this mode. Oh, by the way, Wargaming, how about you do that for the rest of the game? Anyway, now we've got the old laser guys going on. The laser's kind of interesting. Oh, by the way, that's an illegal mod if you actually... I'm not accusing Wargaming of cheating with an illegal mod. They've put that there for a reason. So you have an idea of where the gun is aiming. If you can actually go like this, no real discussion about that though, right? It's just there. It's fairly self-evident to me, but maybe as a new player you go, hey, oh, by the way, the laser pointer shows where the gun line is on the enemy tank. And if you come high enough up here in your hold down position, then once that laser beam intersects your tank, he has shots on you. I mean, it's so easy. All right. Now we get into repositioning. Again, another opportunity lost right here, and we need to kind of hurry up because 3 minutes and 34 seconds. I may actually have to restart this as we're talking because I stopped. But it wants you to go to this position. No discussion about how, hey, when you're moving across a ridge line, you may want to go lower on the ridge line in order to not have your spotting point, the uppermost, which is at the top of your turret. You know, that kind of discussion, that your approach line to the next position is important. We'll get to a little bit more of that in just a second because they teach a couple bad habits on this map in particular here in just a moment. Once again, two guys lit that have zero to do with me and no explanation of how these guys got lit. So what we're supposed to take away from that as a new player, I have no idea. So they don't know I'm there until I shoot, and now they're looking at me. Another opportunity lost, discussing about how your camo goes down when you fire. Right? How your camo goes down when you fire. So we'll come up here. There's a TD. Not a bad time to start talking about TDs, about how TDs will typically be further back, second line kind of tanks, hiding in bushes. Hiding in bushes, looking for spots from closer guys, i.e. the medium or light or whatever it was right there. And then they want me to drive over to this green spot. Now, why on earth would I drive over to this green spot in a real game by highlighting myself and coming right up here? This is a great way to get sent back to the garage. That point should have been down here somewhere with a discussion about, hey, you know what? The reason I don't want to drive over this little ridge right here is because there's going to be 82,000 tanks sitting in here waiting to shred me. So my approach matters. I can use cover and bushes. I can use the terrain, which means if I'd have gone down this way and come up over lower, I can actually approach into these bushes and maybe I don't get seen. Now this is not a bad spot here. As you approach to right here, and this is one of my favorite parts of all of it right here because it's telling me to just push into the enemy team through the open right there down the 1-2 line, which is another quick way to get back into the garage. Obviously, the best way to do this, if I was going to no kidding drive up there, and I probably would not take my Tiger, by the way, right through these bushes. Now there's a light that looked like it sort of used the actual spotting system. Very nice. There could be discussion there, but I'm going to come at this thing this way. Now, I'm running out of time, so more than likely I'm going to have to restart this thing. He's seen me somehow. There's a light. No discussion about the light bulb. I get into this spot, and now I need to destroy the target. Oh, by the way, this is a Tiger tank, which has terrible gun depression. I'm just going to have an awful time trying to get shots on these guys. So we'll come up here. There's no real good position from that supposed firing line about how I can get up here and not take immediate aggro from all three of these guys. So I'm taking hits. There we go. Can even have a little discussion about auto aim. We'll just come up here and we'll auto aim this guy. There we go. Back out. Laser's kind of showing me what's going on. We can also have a discussion about peek and poke, trying to minimize the amount of time that I am exposed to these guys. And hopefully we can kill this dude before we take another hit. There's even an opportunity here for talking about angling. No discussion about angling. Once again, I'm pushing into where bushed up TDs are and artillery. Now, he doesn't see me, but watch this. I'm going to fire. I am double, triple, quadruple bushed against this tank destroyer. I don't know why he sees me, right? No idea. I guess that's the game if I'm a new player. I guess they just see you automatically when you shoot. That makes zero sense. The guy should not have spotted me. Alright, and we have another same discussion. If I was going to push back into the corner, especially if I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 enemy tanks, and it looks like there's another 3, the last thing I would do is come across that open area right there. I would get into these bushes over here along the bottom of the map, and I would get into these bushes here and see if I could find some of those guys. But now I'm just YOLO right across the open here. YOLO right across the open. Once again, I'm going to hit this point. It's going to auto light up a bunch of tanks, which makes zero sense in relation to the game mechanics of the game. I don't know how I saw them. Nobody knows. Nobody knows how we saw those guys, so we'll come over here. We'll see if we can actually finish this. I don't have a lot of time. And I don't have a lot of hit points either. So we'll come up here, shoot this guy in the back. Probably going to take a hit from the TD. Yep. And we get bad luck. Yeah, and there we go. We actually end up dying right there. Actually end up dying right there. Alright, let's wrap this thing up. So it occurred to me that potentially, because I started down in the harder ones, that maybe there's some more basic information in the beginning ones. I just did the first ANSC, and not exactly. So we'll go through this one. This one's pretty quick. A lot of the same... A lot of the same issues exist with this one. I will say that if you wanted to make some decent content on basics, side scraping, viewing, how to shoot things, stuff like that, this may not be a bad way to do it, but I don't think that was really the intention of putting this mode in the game. Alright, so the same thing. This is ANSC, the first one in the series. So we go to the point, we go to this spot, and we'll see if they give the same advice, because I think right here it's going to tell me to minimize the exposure of my hull, which is good information, but there's zero idea of how to do it.
Destroy the targets.
Okay. So you could do a bit of a side scrape kind of clinic right here. We're just going to side scrape in our T14. We're going to come out just enough. All right, well, that's a bummer. There, he says it. Try to hide the vehicles. Try to get down. So we're just side scraping. See how he's just seeing a little bit, and it's highly angled. This is basically how you do it, and this is kind of reversing out for the side scrape. You can see his laser beam. Maybe try to bait the shot there. He fired. He fired, didn't do much to me. We get additional. We get additional time. So here's another example of some side scraping and ways to think about how to take these guys on. So first thing I do is maybe I can get a shot on this guy, and it doesn't look like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to side scrape on this corner. Oh, got to be careful. Stuck out the front end a little too much. There we go. So we get a little bounce on the side scrape. Shoot him in the back. Okay, nice angle right there. Makes it hard. There's another bounce. There we go. So that works. And we take that guy down. So we just back out enough to get a shot. Now this is exactly what this mode could be doing, and they could be giving a little bit of instruction on that. Now here's one that's really interesting, because you'll see this with guys who are positioning poorly in the tactical sense. I'm just going to back out to where I can see his back sprocket. I'm not even going to give him much of a shot at all. I don't even see his gun, but I can see enough of the whole of his tank that I'm shooting him with more or less impunity. I'm certainly not going to bring out the lower part of my tank. There you go. I bait a shot, and we end up killing that guy. What I don't see is it doesn't look like it's showing tracks, because one of the reasons I would do that is to try to track the guy and pin him down. Then when I side scrape out, he can't move around or shift his hull towards me.
Your task is to destroy all targets.
So they give us a
Reach the firing line.
they give us a very basic thing. Now there's a lot more to this map, and there are four missions for this. So hopefully one of them, I think, actually goes out into the field right there. We're going to come in here. We're going to automatically spot two guys. Again, the vision thing comes into play.
Fire at will.
I don't know why I saw the tank destroy over there, but I did. We're going to do the same thing against this heavy tank that we did against the other tank over there. We're just going to side scrape out, and we're going to look for a shot on him. Now, one thing you do have to watch out for in this game is all this stuff that's in the way. There we go. So there's a highlight. So that means something's in the way. That means I can hit him. There we go. And that's going to get his attention, I think. There we go. Now he sees us. He actually gets a shot on us. We get a crit, no damage.
Won't destroy themselves.
So there was something in the way. Now that that's knocked out of the way, I can get a nice view on him. So we're just going to do that against him. Minimize the amount of shooting that he can give us. And we're going to try something on this. We're actually going to try to just go around this. Probably not going to matter. We're just going to take a face hit. Oh, I did track him. That's nice. All right, so he is tracked. Yeah. Oops. Try to track him again here. Ah. Got the kill on him. I was going to try to track him and go around him, but there's an opportunity there to tell the player to track the TD and go around him. I mean, the ideas are many and plentiful. Many and plentiful.
The firing line and destroy all targets.
And maybe some of it is just the fact that wargaming, it's a time thing. They just didn't have the time to do all of it. Maybe they would be able to add to this.
Destroy the targets.
Now here's a TD that doesn't know I'm there. What I'm going to try to do here is track him. Didn't get it, so I'll just minimize as I side scrape. See if we can try to... There, we baited a shot. See how we got the 110 with the black and he bounced? And we'll do the same thing over here. The last thing I wanted to show you here is sometimes you've got these... Sometimes we've got these fences in the way, and he knocked it down already. There we go. Something else in the way. And you can still shoot them, even though you don't have a highlight, especially if it's something that can be knocked down.
Time added.
So we end up finishing that guy off. My advice really at this point for wargaming with topography is to grab some of your CCs. Obviously I'd love to do it, but if there are better ones with better ideas as far as how to do maps, and have them sort of script out a few things that are important about the map. Things that they could show people. We'll side scrape this guy as well. And really give people a good idea of how to play the map. Like that whole side scraping thing, this is a great map for it, because that fight that's over in the city there is side scrape palooza. Right? There's a lot of side scraping. There's eventually a move forward. You could start talking about tracking people and going by them. That's what happens on Ensk as well, quite a bit there in the city. Once you start to get an advantage and people push, even the idea of when to push and when to not push as far as overmatches go in terms of numbers, trading hit points for position. There's so many things that could be talked about right there. And there you go. My initial thoughts anyway on top. All right, I'm going to wedge this in. I finished the video. I decided to do one more. I started this and it just... Once again, this is the heavy armored tank from the other side on Ensk. The one we came from the north. This is from the south. I haven't shot anything yet, and it told me to drive all the way through these buildings into this position here. So the first bad guy I see is way back in the north. Nobody has met me up in this area. This is where the fight starts on this map, 95% of the time. And this is my beef with this mode. you're giving the new guys the idea that you just drive up here and then you cross this big open road and then you start engaging targets. You're going to get absolutely murderized just pushing through, because I just came through this opening right here. You're going to get murderized doing that. There's no discussion of, hey, this is later in the game, or somebody followed while I'm making a video. This is later in the game. This is, I mean, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. It's very random. It's very random. All right, so like I said, I'm going to wedge this into the video, but this is a great example.
Hide your vehicle's hull when firing.
Try to hide my vehicle's hull. How about try to not talk people into driving into stupid spots on maps? How about that before we worry about hiding our hull? Let me get out of this guy's way. All right. Jeez. You're going to get the wrap up after this. See ya. I think it was a bit of a swing and a miss. I like it. It does allow people to kind of get some sense of the maps without being shot at. That's good. I like actually that there are some opponents on it that you have to take on, because it lets you do a couple things like the side scrape and figure out some things with the tank that you're driving. I don't like that you have to drive the one tank. I would love it if you could take your own tank, and maybe if it just puts a different tier enemy there for the tier of your tank. So if you bring a tier 10, it puts tier 10 tanks in there, and you could practice things. I mean, how awesome would it be to, you know, now we're thinking about stuff that's way out there, and this is all development time that just for this kind of mode might not be worth it, but the ability to set any tanks you wanted in the positions to do tests. Like, all right, I want to put a light tank here and a medium tank here and a TD here on the map and see what happens. Even if it was very basic, right? Maybe if it was just generic light tank that has lots of view range, right? Or generic heavy tank that's heavily armored to test hold down spots and all kinds of things like that. But I think there's a lot to like here. My main major argument with it right now is on some of these maps, you're kind of teaching people bad habits, especially the sponges. You know, we used to have a saying, don't poison the sponges, meaning new people want to soak up all the information they can. Don't give them bad information. Don't poison the sponges. So they see things, especially like on proc, where they're just driving out in the open, right? Oh, it said go 5-6 line, kill those guys, and then flow over. Well, yeah, that's the general idea. That's a good thing. But good Lord, don't do it across the top right there. And I realize just because they put a marker down doesn't mean you have to go that way, but there was no discussion about why you might not want to highlight yourself there on proc unless you really just want to go back to the garage. Then flowing on to the driving up the 1-2 line without any discussion about bushes or spotting or why you might not want to take a tiger straight through into those guys. Sometimes the spotting mechanics worked, other times things just appeared because you got to a spot. That's no bueno. It doesn't help people understand the spotting, and that's probably like one of the worst or most difficult things. I mean, proc would be a great one to just build a scenario that all it does is talk about spotting. All it does is talk about spotting. So what they've tried to do, it's everything. It's a little mini game. It's some of the map, but not really free play. Sort of free play, but not really. And it's some PvE kind of idea. And it's all just sort of dumped in together. And none of it is fleshed out enough, really, to be awesome by itself. Good idea. Definitely needs some work. Wargaming. I like it, but it just needs some work. That's all I have to say about that. All right, guys, let me know what you think down below about topography mode. Like it, love it. Good, bad, indifferent. What do you think? I think the last thing I will say is if you are a new player, play it. 100,000%. But be mindful that some of the tactical and positioning things that are going on are bad. Okay, and probably you can figure that out pretty quickly. So it's not a tactics trainer, it's a generalized, this is what the maps look like. Here's a general flow of where people go, kind of. But don't take too much away from it in terms of specific from point to point cover to cover kind of moves, because it's not doing a really good job of that. And it's really doing a bad job of the spotting system, 100%. All right, let me know what you think down below. That's all I've got. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate your support of the channel. As always, if you're looking for ways to support it, you can find those down in the description. And remember that I am offering coaching. Guido at 1212gaming.com. See ya.